Imagine a world where kings ruled without question, where the will of one man decided the fate of thousands. And then, out of the rocky soil of Athens, sprang something revolutionary: democracy. But was it truly freedom, or just another illusion of power? The year is 1850 BC. For centuries, the Mycenaean civilization has flourished across mainland Greece, each city-state ruled over by a king. But after a devastating earthquake and foreign invasion, power is beginning to shift. Across the region, aristocrats are seizing control from their monarchs, establishing new governments led by the wealthy elite. Sparta becomes an oligarchy ruled by a few hundred, while in Athens, a new assembly is formed. It is made up of all male citizens, meaning anyone who was born in Athens to two Athenian parents, free and, of course, male. This assembly would eventually evolve into the world's first democracy, a radical new idea where political decisions were made not by kings or queens, but by the people. In this ancient world, there was no such thing as a free lunch. While it's true that every adult male citizen could vote in Athens, women, slaves, foreigners, even non-free men were excluded from citizenship. It was also far from perfect. The assembly was often swayed by demagogues, populist leaders who used their influence to enrich themselves and exact revenge on their enemies. But for all its flaws, classical Athens laid the foundation for modern democracy and set in motion the ideas that would one day lead to universal suffrage. Today, we will look at how Athens became the world's first democracy. We'll explore the fascinating origins of the ballot box and the secret ballots that kept votes safe from bribery. And we'll learn about the little-known history of slavery in Athens and how the city's championing of freedom was built on the backs of thousands of slaves. It's me. Welcome to my channel. Hey, if you're watching this video, chances are you live in a democracy or something like one. In fact, 159 countries out of 193 recognized by the United Nations have some form of democratic institutions, making it the most common form of government in the world. So why does everyone just go along with it? Why do we willingly hand our power over to elected leaders instead of trying to rule the country ourselves? Well, thanks to the internet, we don't have to go back too far to find our answer. Ancient Athens. During the archaic period of ancient Greek history, which lasted from around 800 to 500 BC, the small city-state of Athens began to experiment with a new form of government. After a constitutional crisis, a series of reforms was introduced by a series of archons, the chief magistrates of Athens. The title translates roughly to ruler or steward, and the office rotated among eligible citizens each year. The first archon was a man named Draco, famous for his extremely harsh legal code, which survived only in fragments, but was apparently so extreme that it was said to have been the basis for the later expression, eye for an eye. Draco was followed by a series of reformers, including one man named Solon, who helped loosen restrictions on citizenship and set the stage for more radical change. The next archon after him, Cleisthenes, would introduce sweeping changes that turned Athens into the world's first democracy. But before he could put his plan into action, he needed to address a serious problem. The traditional assemblies in Athens had devolved into a farce. Instead of being a place where ordinary citizens could discuss the future of their state, they'd become battlegrounds between rival factions of the wealthy elite. Everyone else was excluded from these meetings, leaving the most important decisions in the hands of a few hundred rich landowners. To fix this, Cleisthenes implemented a radical plan to reorganize the assembly and make it more representative of the people. The first step in this process was to reorganize the tribes of Attica, the region surrounding Athens. At the time, the 5 local tribes were based on bloodlines that went back to mythical heroes and were largely unchanging. Cleisthenes replaced them with 4 new tribes composed of all the citizens living within Attica's borders, regardless of their family tree. Next, he established a new system of local assemblies called the Hopliadas. These were groups of citizens who met in the countryside to discuss local issues and elect leaders who would represent their interests at the main assembly in Athens. Finally, Cleisthenes created a council of 400 or 500, a body that would prepare laws for debate at the assembly and keep the city running smoothly between meetings. This council was elected by lot from the ranks of the assembly itself, meaning that any citizen could be called upon to serve if their number was drawn. Now the stage was set for democracy to flourish. Every male citizen was allowed to participate in the assembly and vote on laws. They could propose new laws themselves or debate those proposed by others. And the introduction of the council meant that governing Athens didn't have to be a full-time job. All this participation was voluntary, and no one could be punished for not participating, although citizens who neglected their civic duties could be fined. There was no formal representation in the Athenian democracy. Any male citizen could speak on behalf of himself or any other citizen. If someone wanted to advance the interests of women or slaves, they could do so, although it wasn't easy. How did voting work in ancient Athens? When it came time to vote, the assembly would gather together in a central location in the Agora, the main public space in Athens. Citizens would stand in front of the altar of the 12 gods to swear an oath to vote according to their best judgment. From there, they'd move to the Prytaneum, a building where the Council of 500 met. Inside, a metal or clay box called a pyxis would be placed in front of an altar dedicated to the goddess Athena. The Athenians believed that she protected their democracy, so they always voted in her presence. One of the greatest innovations of the Athenian democracy was the secret ballot. First, all the ballots, which were typically pieces of pottery shard, would be stamped with the official seal of the presiding magistrate. They were then deposited into a jar and mixed thoroughly. Next, each ballot box was sealed and guarded until it was opened on the appointed day. Each voter would cast their ballot by dropping it into a vessel. Then, under the watchful eyes of the assembly, the ballots were sorted by 2 counters who read them aloud. They were recorded on a wax tablet, which was hung on the wall of the Prytaneum for all to see. Then the box was cleaned out and the ballots were destroyed. This process ensured that no one could influence another person's vote through force or bribery. In fact, it made bribery nearly impossible. Even if someone tried to slip the counter a bribe, they would be caught the moment their candidate's name was read aloud. Of course, this system had its flaws. Only about half of the votes were ever recorded, so many ballots were clearly destroyed before the counting began. So what was life like for an average Athenian citizen? The answer depends a bit on who you ask. Classical Athens was home to the world's first jury court, which gave all male citizens the right to serve as jurors. They were expected to perform this civic duty when summoned, but otherwise had great personal freedom. They could travel, own property, go into business, and even hold public office. But it's important to remember that this freedom was not extended to everyone. Slavery was deeply ingrained in Athenian society, and the vast majority of the population, both male and female, were denied basic rights simply for being born in the wrong family. Athens had no official count of its enslaved population, but estimates range from 8 to 15,000. Most of these people were captured in wars with neighboring states, especially the island of Melos, which Athens invaded after it refused to join the Delian League, a confederation of Greek states formed to protect the Aegean Sea from Persian invasion. After conquering Melos, Athens enslaved its adult male population and sold its women, children, and non-free men into domestic slavery. Women were also enslaved when Athenian men seized concubines from non-free or foreign women. Slaves in Athens could be bought, sold, and inherited, but unlike most other Greek states, they were not considered property. They could be freed with the permission of their master and were eligible for citizenship if they married a free-born Athenian woman. Free non-citizens were also tolerated in Athens, provided they paid a special head tax. They could own property, participate in religious life, and even serve in the military. Athens was actually unique in this regard. Most Greek city-states forced non-citizens to live segregated lives, forbidding them from owning property or marrying local women. Despite the freedoms enjoyed by its citizens, Athens would eventually lose the war with Sparta, bringing an end to its golden age. But the system of government it introduced survived for centuries. Its legacy can be seen in the governments of the Roman Republic and modern democracies around the world. And now it's time for you to become an Athenian citizen and vote on the next topic we cover. Will it be the assassination of Julius Caesar or the founding of Islam? Please select one using the link below. Thank you for watching. Sign up for our newsletter to get more content like this in your inbox. And remember to subscribe to stay in the loop and get our new videos every week.